Llama asked, so do most schools offer study abroad programs for free? That's a really good question. It's going to differ depending on the school. I wouldn't say all study abroad programs are free. Typically, these programs will cost money themselves. That being said, the whole name of the game is taking advantage of the funding available at your school. So, what you typically want to do is if you're trying to do some sort of paid program for study abroad, definitely take a look around the school, talk to faculty and administrators, and ask about what sorts of fellowship opportunities or funding opportunities might exist for you to do that. The example that I like to use is that in college, for me at Yale, there was a fellowship called the Light Fellowship, which was geared towards travel, study, or cultural immersion in Asia. That's what the fellowship was designed to facilitate. So what students would do is they would go and apply to different programs, study abroad programs in Asia, and then they would apply to the Light Fellowship saying, this is what I want to do. This is what I've applied to do. I've gotten an acceptance to do this. This is the scope of my plan. Can I have funding to do this? And so ultimately, while these programs themselves typically aren't free, your school will likely have resources that will make it possible for you to do these types of things, even if you're not free, even if they're not free themselves. And Alex, you said that you were able to get funding from Duke to do to travel to all the different places you traveled to. Was that from some sort of a uniform source, or how did that sort of play out for you based on the different places you went to?
Yeah, so it depends on the different places. So like my traditional study abroad that I did in Paris, so that was the same as tuition. So I basically just had to pay tuition for Duke. Sometimes there can be an extra program fee, like Robert was mentioning, on top of that. But usually they do still want you to pay tuition. Granted, if you have financial aid and scholarships, they usually go to that as well. So it's not like your scholarship will be taken away just because you're not doing.
That's a super good point. Yeah.
Or year at that university. So they really try to make that accessible for at least it's going to cost the same as just being at the school usually would. I second what Robert said about fellowships are a really great way to get funding to do things. So the one I did in Greece, I went to Greece for a month over the summer to do my own research. And so that was funded by a fellowship. So basically, similar to Robert, I had to make a proposal and a plan and say what I was going to do and how I was going to spend the money. And they said, you can ask for up to this amount of money. I said, I will ask for all of the money that you are offering and put all my reasons down for why. And then I used that money to go to Greece and to cover my food, and it covered my housing. So I didn't pay for anything when I was in Greece. And some programs are stricter than others. It's worth noting. You can ask people who have previously done them how it works. So when I went to Ireland, that program is a Duke specific program, and I'm sure other colleges do the same. But they would fund a summer of volunteering abroad. And so you would apply to different programs within the group. There were, I think, 12 of us who went to Ireland, and each was focused on a different theme. And this is called Duke Engage, if you want to look it up. And so mine was about migration. And so we were all working within that field for the summer. And everything for us was covered, all our housing and everything. And they gave us a stipend, is what we used to pay for food. And they determined the stipend based on what the program coordinators, the professors had asked for, based on how much the cost of living is in the country. Because I got more money than I had friends who went to Uganda and were doing engineering things. And because the cost of living isn't as high where they were, they didn't get as much money, but it was enough for what they needed. And so that was another program where you can go to very different places and have really neat experiences. And that one was completely funded. My one to Jordan was during the semester. So it was another semester long program. And we had all of our classes together, and we were the only ones in those classes. And it was also focused on a theme. So this was, again, migration. You can sense a pattern in my studies. And so we took an anthropology class, and we took a crash course in Arabic. And then because we had all our classes together and weren't going to miss any, we could go to Jordan for a month all together and do actual on the ground research and field work there. And so I think that we had to pay for our tuition for that semester as well. And then I think that program was like $1,000 extra. But there's a lot of opportunities you can get for scholarships and funding outside of things. You just have to know the right places to look. And so there are programs that you are going to have to just pay for on your own and that are going to ask for that. But there's also, like Robert said, if you're flexible, there are other programs where you can get it for completely free because it'll be funded. Or my sister's going to Berlin this summer, and so she's doing one of the traditional language programs. And there were a ton of scholarship opportunities just for students going to Germany in the summer. And so it's about just knowing where to apply and that sort of thing. So sometimes you'll have to pay, long answer short, and sometimes you won't.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, like you mentioned, Alex, first of all, like you mentioned, typically if the study abroad program is organized by your university directly, like if it's facilitated by your university or a program in your university, like Alex said, if you're on financial aid, chances are that financial aid will carry over. That's the thing they don't tell you about financial aid. It's surprisingly transferable. If you do semesters abroad, if you do entire years abroad, usually the college or university in question will strive to have your aid sort of carry over to wherever you may go. That's something that I've noticed for basically all the friends that I know who studied abroad talked about how they were able to use their over the course of their different places that they went or the things that they did